Monterey was definitely a different experience, and on several levels for Andrew and I, and and Joe Arnold went once again and took the place of Floyd Newman, who once again was teaching or whatever. And Joe had been to Europe with us, so he went to Monterey with us. Although he was not really part of us as a studio group, but he played with me in the club every night. He's a good guy and a great saxophone player. But what I was going to talk about was Monterey Pop Festival. We've been in Europe playing for 2,000 people, or maybe 1,500. Some of those venues are pretty small, and we had a wonderful, great response from them, and we were really excited about what the music had been doing in Europe. But when we got to Monterey, we were shocked. It was the biggest crowd we'd ever seen. There were 55,000 people at the Monterey Pop Convention, and they were hippies, and they were smoking dope out in public, and the cops were wandering around through the crowd, and nobody seemed to care. And of course, being from Arkansas, I figured if you smoked a joint, you'd be in prison by that night. You know, it was shocking. And the ladies had babies on their backs, and they put up little pup tents, and they'd have little tiny babies in their arms. And they were all wearing tie-dye and selling each other jewelry and the stuff that hippies do. And we didn't get to go over and see the venue until we went to play. So we were all back at this motel, and Otis and all of us were in one room rehearsing. We were going over the songs we were going to do, and Otis was prancing around the room and singing his songs, and Al Jackson was beating on the chair, and we were singing horn parts. So we kind of put the show together in the hotel, in the room. And then along about 5 o'clock, I think, the sun was going down, it was getting cooler. They came with the van and put us all in this van. And we drove from there to the venue, which was not far away. It might have been a mile, maybe 2, but a very short van ride. And when we got over there, we were just amazed at the amount of people in that stadium. We'd never seen a crowd that big. And the rock acts of the day had been performing, including Jimi Hendrix and Jefferson Airplane at that time, and Janis Joplin. And so they had all had on tattered blue jeans, and tennis shoes, and ragged tops, and maybe a bandana around their head, and they had cigarettes hanging out of their mouths, and beer and cups, and they just like they were in their backyard at a barbecue. And we all took show business very seriously. We shined our shoes and made sure our trousers had the same, were perfect, and we had on our sweaters that night because it was cold. And me and Andrew and Joe had these thick sweaters, and they were nice and warm. But we looked sharp. We were sharp. I think we had on electric blue that night, and Booker T and them had on electric green, I think. And man, when Booker T and the MGs hit that stage, it just got quiet. All those hippies got quiet because they hadn't seen anything like us come to play for the for them. Clean as a hound's tooth. And then the horns came out, and we were dressed like that too, beetle boots and really sharp. And the heat in the audience came up. You could feel the heat coming up and the excitement level. They loved Booker T and the MGs, and they loved Green Onions. They had heard it, but they didn't know what we looked like or didn't know anything about us. And then we came out and did our hit instrumental or two. And by that time, they were paying attention, and they were having a good time, clapping. And boy, then Otis Redding hit the stage, and pandemonium broke out. They really hadn't seen anything like the show we put on and that Otis put on. We were serious about it. We were doing our steps, and the tempos were all fast, too fast. But our dance steps looked good, I bet. And we made a real dent in California society. And we took the show away from some of the hippies. After that, that girl started hanging out in Memphis, Who'd I say?
Janis Joplin.
Janis. She came to Memphis and did a show and wanted to make a record, which she didn't get to do, I don't think. I'm not sure, but we really astounded. And I say we, Otis Redding and the band was one thing. That sound was the same as the records, and Otis was explosive. He just rolled over them like the tide. And when we were through, the Smothers Brothers had introduced us, and they were on the side of the stage just jumping up and down. They were beside themselves. We really had done a number in California. And so the next day, Andrew and I were designated to take one of the rental cars back to the hotel. And we'd never been in California, so we stopped at all the wineries and tasted wine. We were pretty looped when we got to San Francisco, and we bought some wine. We had about 4 bottles apiece to take home, like there wouldn't ever be any more wine, ever. So, it was really funny, me and him getting on the airliner, trying to stuff bottles up over the seat and over the top, and driving to Andrew was driving. And we got up to the top of Telegraph Hill, and I said, well, I'll see you. I'm getting out of this damn thing, because it looked like it was going over backwards. Never seen a hill like that. And so we finally got it parked at the hotel, Jack Tar, where we were staying. And Andrew and I have had a good time all over the world, but I think that was the first time we realized that we could go ahead and have a good time, and it's okay. If we spend $100, it's okay, spend it, you know. And we decided that day that we could make a living doing just what we were doing, and that we didn't have to worry about opening a bait shop or selling barbecue sandwiches, you know, on the street. That probably was going to be okay. So that was the other level. We talked about several levels. It was really different. It was different musically. It was different for the crowd and their response, and it was different for me and Andrew as a team to understand what we'd done a little better. Because up to that point, we were making these records down at Stax and working every night and making $300-400 a week, which is a lot of money in those days, and had a saving account and a new car and all that. But we didn't think it was serious. We still thought we'd just gotten lucky in these little R&B records, and he was going to probably go down, and wondered how he was going to make a living. But from that day forward, we never thought about it again. We went forward. A door opened somewhere, and we went through.